Be sure to go to flipsidegaming.com and use promo code 6 for 10% off on orders over $10. It's a good deal and it helps support the show. What's up, Planeswalkers? Theurx6 back with some more Throne of Eldraine spoilers. And this is not going to be coming out the time that it usually does. Usually I do my bonus videos, which include spoilers, at midnight of the day where I post it. However, this is going up in the normal time slot because I'm not sure if I'll be able to actually record a normal arena video. And the reason for that essentially is I'm incredibly busy. I'm recording this essentially as fast as I can, and then I'm getting back to work. I'm going to try my best to upload a video, probably have it set to go about 4 p.m. if I'm able to record it before I leave for class. So that's why this is in this slot instead of just at the normal midnight slot. Hopefully you guys still like the spoiler stuff. Anyway, these first few cards are going to be from the Planeswalker decks. You have one for Oko and one for Rowan. This first Oko one has Oko's Hospitality. It's a 5-mana instant. Creatures you control have base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. You may search the library for graveyard for an Oko the Trickster, very specifically that Planeswalker deck Planeswalker. You know, we've seen these exact cards before, where essentially you're getting some sort of okay card that searches for it as well. And you get to put it in your hand. Now, for what it's worth, if you're making a lot of 1/1s, this isn't terrible, but you don't get any, you know, keyword abilities. You don't get trample. You don't get flying on them. You don't get anything else. So the very best you can do is have a bunch of 1/1s turn into 3/3s. I guess technically you could have a bunch of small creatures with +1/+1 counters on them to make them bigger, but this is a Planeswalker card for a reason. Oko the Trickster is not terrible for being a Planeswalker deck Planeswalker. Yikes. 6 mana for a 4 loyalty Oko. Put 2 1/1 counters on up to 1 target creature you control. So, unfortunately, you can't distribute the counters. You know, you can't put a 1 and a 1. It has to just be the single creature. But, you know, that's okay of a plus ability. It's okay. It's fine. 0 until end of turn, it becomes a copy of target creature you control. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn. Now, notably, this is something we usually see on Gideon, but because Oko has that shapeshifter quality to him, this is something that Oko can do as well. And if you have a decent creature, you know, or a creature with haste or something, it's not terrible, and you get to prevent the damage that would be dealt to him. So, you know, I don't hate it. Now, of course, the difference here, of course, I've said of course too many times, is that Oko can still be destroyed. Right, Gideon, I believe, while he's a creature, can't be destroyed, at least in his most recent incarnation. Yeah, so he's indestructible, whereas Oko is not. So that is, you know, a point down. And then -7 until end of turn, each creature you control has a base power and toughness +10/+10 and gain triple. So this card does help you in that situation. However, this is once again not just. Honestly, I feel like this is just barely not standard playable. You know, if you trim a number off of his casting cost and maybe. Probably giving him indestructible like Gideon would make the 0 potentially too good, because you get the best creature that you have access to. But, you know, there are some numbers that could be tweaked, but as is, it's just an interesting card that's fun in the Planeswalker decks. Oko's Accomplices, this is upgraded Windrake. This is power creep for you. You know, it has a relevant creature type in Faerie. 3 mana, 2/3 flyer. I mean, if this were unlimited, which I don't believe it is, this I would pick all day long. Like, this is literally Windrake with upside. Right? This is Windrake that wins Windrake mirrors. So I definitely love it for that. However, it's not really going to see play in standard, even though it has that Faerie creature type. I assume that Pauper Fairies also has other things to play than this. My expectation is, you know, some people are saying, like, oh, it's power creep. Windrake was never, well, maybe long ago, but, you know, in the modern era, Windrake is not a card that's played. It's great and limited. Like, if this were unlimited, this would be limited power creep. But, you know, we've seen cards that are a little bit better than Windrake and limited already. And it really is about how limited ebbs and flows, standard ebbs and flows. So I don't think this card is creep, really. It is different than Windrake, better than Windrake in most situations. But, you know, I think this card is still not going to really see play anywhere. Bramblefort Fink. First of all, it's funny to me because I can't stop thinking of like Rat Fink. I think that's like someone who tells on you. But also, this card's not awful. Depending on how much play normal Oko sees, this might not be like that bad. So it's a 2-mana 2/2 oof, and it's fine. Also, this art is fantastic. But you know, for 8, which is very similar to the Zendikar like Scion creatures, I can't remember what they are, but there are some Zendikar cards that have like at 8 to activate, you become this bigger thing or something until end of turn. But this becomes, you know, a 10/10 until end of turn. Normally, or as usual, this doesn't give itself trample. It doesn't even give itself reach, which I kind of wish it did because of the whole bramble thing. Thorns are very often associated with reach, in Magic at least, so it would have been cool to see that. However, I think that I could see a world in which this card is played in unranked. In ranked, obviously not, but I think honestly, you know, bear with upside with a planeswalker that I think is reasonable, fun to build around. I think you could see this in unranked, and it'd be fine. Also, the art is just so good. Garrison Griffin. Is this actually from 305? Yeah, I guess so. Huh. Sure. Garrison Griffin is a 3-mana 2/2 flyer. Whenever it attacks, target knight you control gains flying. This is better than Windrake. Wow, look at that. You have a small dick. I say that every time I hear shit coming past my window. But it's upside for knights. However, it's not a knight itself, and there are substantially more knights in the set. This card is not going to see play. Rowan, Fearless Spark Mage. 5 mana for a 5 loyalty walker. That's a fine rate. That is a fine rate. +1, up to 1 target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. That's not bad. It's just not bad. You can attack in with some weenies. -2, Rowan, Fearless Spark Mage deals 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures can't block. Unfortunately, once again, like Oko before, this card you cannot concentrate the damage, whereas Oko couldn't spread the damage or spread the +1 counters. So it does suck that you aren't going to be able to kill something that has 2 toughness, but you can kill things with 1 toughness, and you can force things not to block. You know, it's not terrible. Then -9 is Insurrection. Gain control of all creatures until end of turn. Untap them. They gain haste until end of turn. I honestly don't think this Planeswalker's bad. Now, obviously, it's not going to be standard playable. Well, there is a non-zero chance that this is played standard. It really just depends on what all we see out of Thorn of Eldraine. But unlike Oko, I think this Rowan is costed relatively well. I mean, honestly, it's just about the deck that can support her. I think her biggest weakness is that she can't protect herself very well. She can protect herself against a lot of X1s, but against single large creatures, she can't really do anything. And she does require you to have stuff on board in order to get value. And she does take a while to ultimate. So those are really the strikes against her. Once again, art's fantastic. Zach Stella did a fantastic job. But I think overall, Rowan is going to be... At the very least, I'm going to try and play this card in unranked to see how well I can do with it, because I don't think she's that bad. All right, it's probably like a 0.5% chance that she's play in actual standard. Rowan's Battle Guard, 4 mana for a knight. Plenty of knights in the set. 3/3. So that's what, Hill Giant. 4 mana 3/3 is a Hill Giant. First strike. As long as you control a Rowan, this gets +3/+0. 4 mana for a 6/3 first strike. For 4 mana for a 6/3 conditional is not playable. Roman Stalwarts, this is the search card, just like Oko's Trickery or whatever before. 5 mana for a 5/2 knight. That's just a terrible, terrible toughness. When it enters the battlefield, search your library, graveyard, blah, 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 put it in hand. This card doesn't even do anything else. It's just a 5/2. That's it. It's a 5/2. This is significantly worse than Oko's in almost every way. But going on to the real cards, because that's what everyone here is really for. Mystic Dispute. It's a counterspell that gets better. Well, not gets better. It gets cheaper, which means better, if you're countering a blue spell. So 3 mana instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a blue spell. Doesn't have to be a blue instance or whatever. Just any blue spell. Could counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. Now, notably, this is worse against non-blue spells. This is worse than Mana Leak. But against blue spells, it is better than Mana Leak. This, I think, is most similar to what? Convolute? Convolute. I put my big fat fingers, hit the eye. Convolute. Yeah, so it's most similar I think, to Convolute, except Convolute costs 1 more for them to pay. Is the flexibility against blue something that you're going to care about? And I think this is a sideboard card. So my feeling on this card is that if you're in a situation where you want to bring in counterspells against another control deck that is blue based, this is something that if you're a blue player, you can bring in and have the ability to counter one of their blue spells for really cheap, or have the ability to counter one of their non-blue spells for the full cost. Now, I don't know if there are going to be better counterspells in the set. I don't know if this outcompetes the counterspells that we do already have. That said, it does do what it does relatively well, and that is saying nah to blue mirrors. Now, what might happen is that if this card does start to see play, we may just see the blue mirrors take longer, essentially, until you can start holding up that extra 3 mana, and people who play blue control mirrors might not like that, but at the same time, you know, people who aren't playing blue control, but still are playing something like Mystic Dispute, may really appreciate being able to say, nah. And notably, this is not mono blue spells. This is blue spells, right? This hits Many Teferi for what it's worth, but it also hits Time Wipe. It hits other cards that I can't think of right now, because all I can think of when I think of mono blue is fucking Teferi and Time Wipe. Or multi-blue. Is it, man, Ralzeric. It hits Ralzeric. Sure. It's non-mono blue cards. Once upon a time, not long ago, where people were like something, I don't know. So this card, I've seen talk about this in Modern and Legacy forums. This is a 2-minute instant. However, if this spell is the first spell you've cast this game, not this match, luckily they're not referencing matches, this set has a lot of interesting black border things. But you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So if this is your first spell that you're casting, you can pay without paying its mana cost. It is an instant. You can do this on your opponent's turn. You can do this on their upkeep, before they've drawn anything. This is a turn 0 card. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it in your hand, with the rest on the bottom in a random order. The main places I've seen this are in like low land combo decks. So like Charred Belcher, not no land Charred Belcher, but in like 4, I think they play 4 or 5 lands. I don't remember. I think it's like a single mountain and then a bunch of, not Trops. The red-green one. Tygas? Something like that. So I've seen some discussion there. It's weird and interesting. Now, notably, it only looks at the top 5. So honestly, I don't think this is a standard card at all. The top 5 reveal creature land card. Remind them. Because it's not putting anything into play. Like if you're looking to ramp, there are better cards. I don't know. I don't think this card's going to see play in standard, but I'm not sure. Wicked Guardian. This is the Wicked Stepmother. You can see Cinderella in the background here. This dog thing looks like a weird bat hybrid, and in my opinion, it's incredibly cute. Wicked Guardian's a 4-mana 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may have it deal 2 damage to another creature you control. If you do, draw a card. Essentially, she's entering the battlefield and yelling at one of your other creatures, and for some reason, that lets you draw a card. Still, notably, if you have multiple Wicked Guardians, for example, in a limited deck, they would kill each other, which, you know, makes sense. You can only have 1 Guardian. I may have said Godmother in there somewhere. Whatever. But still, this is interesting. You know, sometimes you want your own creatures to take damage. Maybe you play this in a really stupid 3-color, like, Mardu True Fire Captain deck where you want your creatures to take damage, and then, like, you play this, and, like, it's not a good idea, but I'm saying you could do it. That said, you could also hit things like Reassembling Skeletons, or just like 1/3s, or X3s, I should say. Anything with 3 or more toughness, you get to draw a card. That said, this is only for limited. I think that in limited, if there are enough X3s, I think this is a totally reasonable pick, because even though it can, and likely would, trade down, it can also trade up. One of the other things to consider, thinking about limited at least, is that you might want... Okay, music was weird there. That you might need to consider how many first strike creatures are in the format. And since there's a bunch of knights, my assumption is that there are going to be a more than usual amount of first strike creatures, which does make this card even worse. Faerie Guide Mother, not Godmother. very guide mother, very horrifying art. I don't know why. Like, I assume this is supposed to be nice, but I'm scared. Is a 1-mana 1/1 flyer. Oh wait, it has an adventure text. Gift of the Fae is sorcery. Target creature gets +2/+1 and gains flying until end of turn. So I really like what I've been seeing from these adventure cards. We're seeing some pretty interesting utility for both limited and constructed. I do think this one is much more for limited, especially considering the fact that it's, you know, it could be a 3-mana 1/1 flyer that on ETB gives a creature +2/+1. Now, obviously, that's not entirely the case because of the ordering of things, but I think this is a totally reasonable effect. The most unfortunate bit, of course, is the fact that you can't use this as a combat trick, and I'm pretty sure Wizards did that on purpose. There are plenty of instant adventure cards, but I think for limited, this is not a terrible 1-drop, especially if there is going to be a white X aggro deck, be it flyers, like white-blue flyers, or white-red something. You know, I think this type of effect is totally reasonable because, you know, if you're playing with enchantments or equipment, then this is something you can play early to get those swords on, and if it's something you draw late, you can make one of your knights flying, and maybe it already has a sword, maybe it has double strike, and you go smack. This feels like an unset to me because there's so much wacky stuff, and I understand that it's just a top-down set of fairy tales, and fairy tales have wacky shit in it. But it's so weird to see a card that is a vehicle that is called Enchanted Carriage and creates two 1/1 white mice that can then crew that vehicle because the idea is they turn into the horses to pull it. That is the weirdest fucking thing. But essentially what you have here is a 5-mana 4/4 or 2 1/1s. You could theoretically do some other things. You know, you can sack the 1/1s and only use a single creature for the crewing, but this I think is just going to be a kind of funny card. I don't see a world where this sees play at all because there's no extra text on this. It's a pumpkin carriage. Speaking of pumpkins, oh my, I did not see his face the first time I saw this. Holy shit, that is horrifying. I'm just gonna zoom in some more. Oh my god. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. 4-mana instant, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, draw a card. If at least 3 blue mana was spent to cast this, create a food token. Are you gonna eat the person? Oh, like, fuck, this is messed up. Oh, now I really understand. This is the first thing that's happened. This is the oldest thing in time sequence. This is mid-sequence. This is end sequence. Okay, I feel stupid. I thought this was 3 different people. I'm busy. Brain broke, smart, can't think. So, I mean, this is fine. You know, this essentially is a kicked into the blink of an eye, where you can't just use the non-kicked version. Like, it doesn't cost 2 blue, which is different. But if you do use 3 blue, then you get a food token, and the food token can be used for life gain later on. I think this could maybe see play in some situations, but once again, I think this is almost certainly just standard stuff. Return to nature. Speaking of that carriage, I wonder if this is supposed to represent anything. Fun fact is the carriage. This is a reprint, but I wanted just to show that this thing. And then they have like the best flavor text. Long after the magic wore off, the mice still dreamed of glorious galloping because, as I said, this is meant to represent that they turn into horses. It's funny. Wildwood Tracker, 1-mana 1/1. Whenever it attacks or blocks, if you control another non-human creature, Wildwood Tracker gets +1/+1. So it's weird because I feel like the idea is that they have a beast companion like they do there, but it's just non-human. But if you have another elf, then that works. But you couldn't type non-humanoid. That humanoid doesn't mean anything in the rules of Magic. But it's just strange that it's specifically non-human when literally any other humanoid could work. Because it's not about them tracking. because you're attacking or blocking what you're tracking, I assume, and it gets the bonus because of the creature. Also, that wolf is cool, and it really or that fox, I should say, reminds me of the mounts on Elder Scrolls Online, which I play, and you should totally join me if you play Elder Scrolls Online on PC North America. The Royal Scions. I feel like, did I talk about these already? I don't remember. I think I did. Crap, I don't remember. Whatever, 3 mana, I'm sorry if I did this already. My brain not be good. 3 mana, 5 loyalty walker. That's not bad. 2+1s. That's not bad. A -8. That's not bad. Draw a card, discard a card. This is, I mean, I should say this card in general is going to be the best in a Reanimator deck or a deck that is looking to play a bunch of Phoenixes. Because you don't mind discarding those things, and you actually get benefit out of the second plus ability. For what it's worth, you could honestly look at this card and see it as 2 separate planeswalkers. One, where both of them only have 2 abilities. One of them is just draw card, discard. You just have a planeswalker for looting, and then the last ability, obviously. And the other one is you're just going to keep pumping your team, and the last ability. That said, the second ability, this is why I feel like I've talked about this card already. It doesn't really mesh with the second or with the third ability, whereas the first one kinda does, because you're gonna be able to like get other draw cards and things like that. And, I don't know, but you know, the card overall I think is fine. Being able to give a creature you control first strike probably is going to be important with the other first strike creatures in the set, and then drawing 4 cards is always just nice. And when you do, you'll go ahead and hit someone or something. It's any target. I'm pretty sure I talked about this, and I'm sorry. Questing Beast 1. What the fuck is that? Because it's a beast, but it looks like it's obviously not a Hydra, because it doesn't have the Hydra abilities of like counters or heads growing back in some way. It looks like a lion with 3 heads, and then it has like a manticore tail, but it's a beast. You know, it's not a manticore or a mastic. I don't know the difference. But it's just weird. Also, it's a legendary creature, so is this a beast that people quest to? Or is this a beast that goes questing? Is this thing intelligent? I'm sorry, I couldn't mute myself fast enough. So, I'm very confused as to what the hell, like, is this more like the Golden Hind? Or is this Aslan the Lion? The Mmmmmmmm Lion. Damn it, that's the one I was looking for. Is this the Mmmmmmmm Lion or Aslan, right? Is this something that people quest for, or is this something that goes questing? My assumption is that it's something that goes questing, which is just fucking weird. It has Vigilance, Death Touch, and Haste. Sure. Vigilance because it has 3 heads, Death Touch because of the Manticore, and Haste, I guess, because it's a fast cat. It's a 4 mana 4/4. That's pretty good. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. This card says, fuck you, Fogs. Fogs say prevent all combat damage. This says, no. How about we don't? So, this is interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm afraid of this card. Luckily, like, the thing is, right, I feel like this, more than other legendary creatures recently, is a legend, not even because of, like, who it is, right? It's because, balance-wise, you only want to have one of these on the field at once. When it deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that controls. This essentially is another in the line of like 4 mana green cards, like 2 green that says fuck you control, right? There's Nullhead Ferox, then there's the Ceratops. I can't remember the first name. It's something Ceratops, whatever. There's like that, and then there's this. It's madness. I don't know which of those, if any, are going to be the best moving forward. My assumption is that Ceratops is probably still the best, and this, I think, is going to fit elsewhere, but I'm not sure. Wishclaw Talisman. It really does seem like Wizards is going to be moving forward with this colored artifact stuff, and I really like that, especially if it allows them to print more powerful artifacts. You know, obviously Colorless Block was a little bit too powerful, but artifacts in general in recent years haven't been the most interesting. So being able to restrict them by using color, I think, will help that. This card is hilarious because they're not all your wishes. Or are they? When it enters the battlefield, or it enters the battlefield with 3 wish counters on it, pay 1, tap it, remove a wish counter from Wishclaw Talisman, search your library for a card, put on into your hand, then shuffle your library. An opponent gains control of this, activate this ability only during your turn. Now, there are cards in... Well, shit. That might be... Voltaic Servant. Darn, that's rotating. So unfortunately, this is rotating, but in Historic, if you want to play nonsense, at the end of the turn, this triggers, right? You can target your Wishclaw, and then in response to the trigger, before it resolves, you tap Wishclaw Talisman. Shit, no, it doesn't work. Damn it. Because it's part of the resolution. Tap it. Yep, no. That doesn't work how I wanted it to. Darn. There are other ways that you can get around this. Mainly, I guess, by bouncing it. For some reason, I thought... I was reading this as your opponent gets it at the end of the turn, not immediately. Darn. Still, there are ways that you can mitigate it. Ashiok works. Although then you just like have a Wishclaw Talisman that your opponent isn't going to use until they kill Ashiok. My dreams have been crushed. Doom Foretold is a weird enchantment. Two white-black. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, this includes you. That player sacrifices a non-land, non-token permanent. That includes you. Some people don't know that. If that player can't, they discard a card. They lose 2 life. You draw a card. You gain 2 life. You create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. Then you sacrifice Doom Foretold. So, if you're the one who can't, you discard a card. Then you lose 2 life. Then you get to draw a card. Then you gain that 2 life back. And then you get a 2/2. So, if this happens on your turn, you fucked. And this says specifically non-token permanent. So, in my opinion, this card is not good. It could be, you know, your opponent is going to be the first one to do this, but, you know, if you're playing this and you're just getting, like, the way I think about it is you cast this card, your opponent loses 2, let's say you're casting this card knowing that your opponent's not going to be able to pay this on their very first turn. They discard 1 card, they lose 2, you draw a card, you gain 2. The 2 life, in my opinion, doesn't even matter. They discard, you draw, and then you gain a 2/2 white knight. Is 4 mana for a 2/2 that forces a discard and draws your card. Actually, you know what? Now I feel like this is not fine. This is not. No, okay. That's like the best case scenario, right? The worst case is that this goes back and forth, and you somehow end up sacrificing more things. I don't know. This card is not for me. This card is for someone better than me. Wicked Wolf. I'm a little annoyed that this is not a bipedal wolf, because I feel like this single card is meant to represent a bunch of the wolves, but this doesn't do a great representation for, I think, one of the cards that are coming up, the 3 Little Pigs, the Little Red Riding Hood, because it's not bipedal. And we've seen bipedal wolves before. The wolf here on Innistrad were bipedal, and I don't, you know, we have a fucking pumpkin carriage. I don't think that having a bipedal wolf would be that weird, but it's a 4 mana 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Notably, it says up to, so you don't have to. It is only a 3/3. Sacrifice a food, put a 1/1 counter on Wicked Wolf. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. There's an interesting thing that you can use your food for. This is at instant speed, so if you already attack, it's still attacking even if it gets tapped after the fact. You can block, then use this ability, and it doesn't remove it or anything. So I think that this is an interesting card. We'll see how well a green-based food deck works. I'm interested in playing a food deck because it's a food deck in Magic the Gathering Arena. Oh, look, it's Blow Your House Down. Like, this one is obviously a quadruped. It's also fucking huge. I don't recall in the story of the 3 Little Pigs that the wolf was bigger than their homes. Also, this motherfucker is like standing like at fucking canopy level, not bottom of canopy. I don't know what the hell that's called. Up to 3 target creatures can't block this turn. Destroy any of them that are walls. It's blowing up the house. Those are the walls. Cool. It's an interesting card that won't see play in Standard. In Limited, this card seems decent. That's about it. Also, I don't like that the wolves aren't bipedal. This card is interesting. I have no idea if this card's insane. 6 mana for a legendary artifact equipment with equip 3. That doesn't seem very good. Flash, a little better. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. If you're attacking with 4 creatures, this card costs 2. But Theorix, you still have to equip for 3, and that you can only do it at sorcery speed. When it enters the battlefield, attached to a creature you control. So if you're attacking with 4 creatures, this costs 2 to cast, and you put it immediately onto one of your creatures. That's not that bad. If a creature gets +1/+1, that's not very good. And double strike and trample. Okay, that's a little bit better. If you equip this to a 2/2, that creature is now a 3/3 with double strike and trample. So it can go ahead, hit a blocker that has 3 toughness, and trample 3 through. That's not that bad, especially considering you get the first attach for free. If you're playing, you're attacking with 3 creatures, this only costs 3. That's not that bad. Will this see play in Standard? I have no fucking idea, because I don't know if the red decks who are playing these hasty creatures are going to want something like this that could be stuck in their hand. In your opening hand, this card's not the best. In a hand where like a single creature gets removed, that may have set you back several turns, essentially. So I don't think that this is necessarily going to see play in Standard. I think this is possibly going to be a little bit more of a equipment card for EDH. Or Oathbreaker. Oathbreaker, sure. Murderous Rider. This card, oh my fucking god. It is a zombie knight. Not only is it a zombie for use in zombie decks, unfortunately, I might still try to do zombies. There's just not really like a lord effect. There's nothing really that cares about me having zombies. There's that 3 mana artifact, the Icon of Ancestry, whatever the hell it is. But in my opinion, not super worth it. It really would just be playing zombies to play zombies. And I might do that. But for Historic, this is cool and would be even better if we had Amonkhet back. Watsy. But it's a 1 dub black lifelink. When it dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library, 2/3. It's a 2/3 for 3 with relevant abilities. That said, I actually think that second part is a downside. When it dies, put it in the bottom of the library. Because typically zombie decks are things that you're going to be able to keep getting cards back. So that does actually kind of suck. And it's not a choice. It's not a may. It goes on the bottom. And honestly, that may have been a balancing thing for Wizards. Being like, yeah, you don't get to recur it, but it's pretty good. Also, it's attached to an instant. Destroy target creature, planeswalker, you lose 2 life. I'm playing this in probably Grixis. Like, this is just a decent removal spell. Like, Bedevil does have the ability to get rid of artifacts. If artifacts are still playing an interesting role in Standard, then yes, I would very likely still keep Bedevil. But if they aren't, I have no reason to really need that Bedevil when I could just have a Murderous Rider. Yes, this does lose me 2 life, which is the opposite of Wrath's Contempt. However, it costs 1 less. Doesn't exile, though. That does suck. But still, the fact that it loses me 2 life isn't necessarily the worst, because I can also play this card as a blocker later on. Right? If I'm going up against a mid-range or aggressive deck, I can kill something at instant speed, and then on the very next turn, play a tapped shock, play this card. Right, now I have a 2/3. Either they kill it with a burn spell, like well, Lightning Strike I don't think is going to be the form, but a 3 damage burn spell, in which case I have saved not only 1 life from that burn spell, but also the life I would have lost from the creature. Or I get to block with it, and immediately that life from destroying a creature or planeswalker has been recouped. Right, I think that this card is DSAF. I'm absolutely going to try and play it in Bolas Control. I would be playing it in a Knight deck. The issue is Knights, I think, are going to be super choked on the 3-drop slot. I might have to try a bunch of different colored Knight decks, and I might even be able to get away with zombie Knights. Fucking Midnight Reaper, Season Don't Feel the Reaper. He's a 3-drop. He's a zombie Knight, and he works real nice. I fucking love this card. I love zombies. I love Knights. Oh my gosh, I need to check out to see the modern Knights discussion. I haven't checked in with them in fucking years because Wizards like never prints good knights. I just said good night. But they are in this set. Brimstone Trebuchet. All the Trebuchet memes, cool. Defender Reach, cool. It's a 1/3 for 3. That's not the best. It deals 1 damage to each opponent. Just tap. That's fine. Whenever a knight enters the battlefield under your control, untap it. Sure. This, once again, kind of a limited card. I don't see this card being very good at all. It works with... The thing that it only works with knights does, you know, mean that this card is not going to get a ton of untaps. But, you know, in limited, you might be able to dome your opponent for 2 a single time. If you're, like... If there's a knight that bounces itself, maybe this is okay. But, like... Using cards to bounce a knight to use this again is just not the best. So I think, you know, also it's a 1/3. If it was like a 1/4, although that wouldn't make sense because it's a fucking trebuchet. Those things aren't necessarily super sturdy, so it's just an for me. Burning Yard Trainer is a 5-mana 3/3 trample haste. So when it enters the battlefield, another knight, you can't target itself. So even though it has haste and trample, you can't target itself. That fucking sucks. Gets +2/+2 and gains trample and haste until end of turn. What is nice is that it at least is giving trample, right? So it doesn't actually suck. I was doing that because I was reading. Anyway, that said, it's a 5-mana card. I don't think this card does enough for you to essentially win with it. Usually in standard, your 5-mana cards need to set you up for a win, hopefully, like get you a lot of value or almost kill your opponent. 6-mana cards like pretty much have to kill your opponent or put you in such an insane position. That I just don't think that the Knight deck is going to want this effect. I don't think there's going to be any like late game Knight decks. Maybe there will be, but if you're playing a late game Knight deck, I don't think Burst is what you're going to want. I think you're going to want value. And this is just, this ain't it, Chief. This ain't it. Joust. 2 mana. First of all, art, fantastic. Red versus blue. Choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. The creature you control gets +2/+1 until end of turn if it's a knight. Then those creatures fight each other. This is just a fight card, except if you have a knight, it's decent. Unfortunately, it's not +2/+2. I assume that they're doing a kind of +2/+1 sub-theme in this set. We already saw it with Faerie Guidemother. I'm going to say Faerie Guidemother. I'm sure everyone is. It's a sorcery, which isn't the best. I don't know if this is the removal that the Knights decks are going to want, because if I'm playing Knights and I happen to have black, I'm playing this. Period. End of discussion. And I don't know if I'm going to want Joust. Right? Joust only kills creatures. You do get the benefit until end of turn, so that's cool. But I just don't know if it's worth it. Jousting Dummy is funny. 2 mana for a Scarecrow Knight. Wooden Horse. Gonna beat the Hell Shield. This Lance looks extra, though. The fucking 2 mana 2/1. This is going to be a limited all-star. If there's enough Knight synergies, this card is going to be pretty good. Because it's just a bear, right? It's not an actual bear, but it's close enough. And it does have a Mana Seek attached to it. And you tend to like Mana Seeks in limited. So the fact that this is 1 toughness off of a bear does suck. But it's colorless and it can get bigger. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't have first strike. But if this had first strike, it'd be fucking insane. Witch's Vengeance. How am I supposed to decide between this and Cry the Carnarium? One of the biggest issues with Cry the Carnarium, it's only -2. What am I supposed to kill with a -2 effect? Come on. This is a -3/-3. Now, I know you have to choose a creature type, and then those creatures get -3/-3. But mono red sometimes has a lot of goblins. Sometimes it just has a lot of steamkins, right? There are definitely going to be situations where you only need to care about a single creature type. What you might see is you split these up. Let's say I'm playing my Grishka Control deck, not desk, and I'm seeing a lot of... Let's say I'm seeing a lot of tribal decks. I might have 2 of these in the main, and 1 or 2 Cry the Canarium in the side. The Cry the Canarium can come in against non-tribal aggro decks. I might not even take Witch's Vengeance out, because it can still hit those creatures. Once again, it dodges the can't be, or like indestructible triggers, it dodges a bunch of stuff like that, and unfortunately, of course, it doesn't exile, but this card, I think, is gonna be great, because even, like, how many boards are like incredibly diverse. Even if you can't kill one thing, that sometimes is what you find with Cry the Canarium anyway, right? Like sometimes there's 1 or 2 creatures that are still left from the Cry, and this can just kill more. I don't know. I love this card. Fucking, I like black cards. Giant Killer, I love this art so much. Jesper does really. It's obviously like I can always tell when it's Jesper's art, but it never looks. I can always tell when it's Jesper's art, but it doesn't look stereotypically Jesper. I don't know if that's coming off correctly, but it's a 1 mana 1/2 tap target creature. It's a rare? What the fuck? Oh, Chop Down. A 3 mana instant. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. That card is gonna see play in limited. It's fucking good. Early game, you can play it as a tapper. Tappers in limited are fine generally. Oh gosh. I hate. I fucking hate that shit. When you feel a sneeze and then it goes away, then you feel it again and then it goes away. Pisses me off. But if you get this late game, you kill their biggest thing and then you just pay 1 to make a tapper to keep tapping down their other biggest thing that they might top deck. I fucking love this card. Of course, it's a rare. Also, are there other peasants in this? Peasant. Nope. This is the only thing with creatures that peasant. Okay, I guess Wizards is adding a bunch of creature types. And last but not least is this is why I love Scryfall. Mozilla Firefox Rider. No, this is Carvel Handia. That's like the place name, and this is like Patroller. I don't speak Portuguese, and I think this is Portuguese. But yes, this is a 2/2 for 4. Not great. Tap, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Maybe this will see play in a token strategy. Maybe. It's definitely... what is the name of that damn card? Leash. Woodleaf Leash. It looks so incredibly similar to Woodleaf Leash, except Woodleaf Leash is fucking awesome. And I played that shit in Modern. Well, played. You know, honestly, it might be playable in Modern now that the Hogak monster is banned. But you can see where I'm coming from, right? Like, it reminds me of it. But it does have a double download, okay? This is Treasure de Volta. I'm gonna guess that says... So I'm assuming Volta is like speed. So I would assume that's like quick travel or something like that. I don't know if that's true. That's just my assumption. Create 2 1/1 white human creature tokens. This is an elf taking a couple stupid little snot-nosed kids on an adventure. I don't think this card is very good. A bit of a downer to end on, but I just don't think this card is very good. Oh, that's interesting. Code credit wasn't on here. What is on here? Oh, not sure. Yeah, I'm gonna try and record a video for you all tomorrow, but I have a lot of work to do, so I'm gonna bounce out. I'd like to, of course, thank my lovely patrons. If any of these cards are something that I just messed up on, like, considering, and you think I was super wrong, either positively or negatively, like I was wrong at saying it wasn't standard playable, or I was wrong in saying that it is standard playable, let me know in the comments. Let me know which of these cards you're most excited to see. I'm very obviously most excited to see the damn Murderous Rider. That card is just so sweet, and I love it. Yeah, no, I can't wait to play that damn card. Yeah, I'd like to thank my patrons, Zin, Rexel, Croft, Furry God, for the continued support. If you'd like to join them, supporting the show, you can find links down below. I hope you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and tap that like button, subscribe to the man. Well, cast the comment to the comment section down below. Pass the third end of the video. Some friends. Of course, until next time, I will be one.